to look like you're trying to take away someone's time or grabbing at their time. Just
very good tip.
Just to make sure you're booking things, even if it's like,
well, don't book it. Hi friends, welcome to My Divorce Real Estate. I'm Amber Gifford, and today we have a special in-house guest, Mia Buratowski. She is a family lawyer here in the Houston surrounding area. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi.
We love in-house. So we're going to talk today about taking your kids out of the country when you're going through a divorce. So like there's just different documents that you use. So we're just going to make a real quick topic here about it. Like, so I'm going through a divorce. It hasn't been finalized. It's summer. I want to take my kids to Mexico. What does that mean?
Right. So typically what that's going to look like is hopefully either in your final decree if you're already divorced, but if you're in the process of a divorce, hopefully you have a temporary order. And hopefully in that temporary order, you have some intent to travel passport provisions. And I know you're familiar with these, but essentially it's going to guide all the different types of notice requirements and how you're going to exchange the passports between the mom and dad, and who, you know, if the child doesn't have a passport, how they can get one.
Can you get one if you're in the middle of a divorce? Like if you both agree to go, we'll show up. I know when I did mine, I had to have, I think with my ex-husband, sign off that it was approval, and he did have it notarized.
Right. So kind of touching on that, you have to remember that a divorce is going to be Texas state law, and passports, obviously, that's going to be a federal law. So anytime it's federal, it's going to trump state. So there's going to be this umbrella of federal law and you know what they want to do and what they want to see on their paperwork. So typically that's where both parents need to go and sign.
Right. You have both parents anyway when you get a passport, even when you're married, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, I just went through that also. So really what it's going to look like is, and I also want to preface this by saying you need to look at your own order. We're going to talk in generalities, but if your own order says something different, if you agree to something different, even if you're not really sure, go back and check. It's really important to do that. Always go back and refer to your own document.
Your Bible.
Right.
So temporary orders is going to be different, obviously, than a final order, which is also your final decree, which may say, hey, if you're going to take the kids out of the country, you have to have this form called the intent to travel, correct? So if they have a decree and they're already divorced, I'm kind of feeling like you're going through it, you maybe should just stick around. Go to Florida.
Right. If there's no provisions and you're going through a divorce, then it's kind of like, I would have a serious conversation with your attorney about it before you book something. Don't book the non-refundable trip to, you know, Grand Cayman and then be shocked when your attorney's like, maybe you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
you know,
hot tip of the day.
First. You know, if you have, you know, I don't want to say amicable, but if it's two reasonable people getting a divorce, but I have had instances where it looks like it's going to be like one spouse abducting the child, and that's just really scary and no one wants to be there. So if you're in the middle of a divorce and you have no provisions on this in your temporary order, or you haven't gotten to temporary orders yet, talk to your attorney first. Just run it by them. Send them an email so that they can reach out to the other attorney, and, you know, give them a heads up so it doesn't look like you're doing anything bad.
So we've said twice, I think maybe now, intent to travel document. Want to tell them what intent to travel is. When your divorce is finalized, it should say a provision in there about leaving the country and getting passports.
Right. So in that passport provision that's going to be in your temporary orders or your final decree, depending on where you are in the process, it's going to reference a form called, I think, a notice of intent to travel outside of the United States. It has a really long title, but I usually slap those on the back of my decrees as an exhibit, just so the client has it right there and can access it really easily. But if your decree doesn't have it as an exhibit, that's not that common. Just Google it, and they're on Google, you know. But it's a form that essentially you give the other parent. And it's just basic information, the dates, where you're going, the addresses, all of the stops that you're going to be going to.
And let me just say this too. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
Like, if you're planning on taking your child on a trip and your ex doesn't know about it, like, it's just common courtesy in general, whether you're amicable or you're at each other's throats. Like, hey, we're going to go to Mexico next month. I'm booking this trip. I wanted you to know. Here's the dates. I've always done that, even if we were going to another city that was 3 hours away.
Right.
Just to let them heads up, this is what's going down. Or I'm planning summer vacation. You have your dates. They have theirs. Like, the intent to travel for the U.S. is so, and I do have a friend that was actually stopped in customs, and they had to call her because her ex-husband had the kids and they were questioning things. How they got stopped, I have no idea, but
I think there's federal agents at the airport that look for child abduction. Not that your friend was doing that, but they, keep their eyes and ears peeled.
well, and I have a different last name than my kids, so passports are different, and I've been remarried, so they may look at that and be like, what's up with that? So you never know.
And one thing I always like to say when I'm talking about this topic, and I know it's hard because logistically and what you should do in a divorce sometimes are two different things, but don't try to usurp the other parent's periods of possession. Like, I know that you found a great deal on a trip that starts one day before your period of possession begins, but it's not worth it. Too bad, so sad.
That's
you don't want to look, especially if you're in a divorce. If you're post-divorce and you and your ex are co-parenting well, then, again, have a conversation about it. But if you just don't want it to look like you're trying to take away someone's time or grabbing at their time, just
very good tip.
Just make sure you're booking things, even if it's like,
well, don't book it. I say don't book it until you know it's your dates and it's good. Don't.
Right.
Yeah.
But even if it's like, oh, well, can we leave for the airport at 12, but the exchange really isn't supposed to be until 6 p.m. Like, just wait till the next day. That's never a good look.
I agree. Especially in a divorce situation, post-divorce, like, things may not be contentious, but sometimes they get that way when another spouse comes into play or dating, and you don't think about these things. And, hey, I want to take a trip this time. Does this work for you? And can you please let me have those dates when you're choosing yours? But also remember, if that your ex is remarried and that person has been divorced, they might have a schedule that they have to follow with their ex. So it's not always to be nasty to say, no, I'm not taking that, or no, I can't do it. It's, you're coordinating, lots of schedules. So I really appreciate you saying that. And I think the intent to travel is just a means of safety precaution. It is notarized by both parents, right?
It is notarized and signed, and it's exchanged before the trip happens. The time limit of when it's supposed to be exchanged will be in your order. And then really the only other thing regarding international travel is that in your rights and duties section of conservatorship, in either your temporary orders or your decree, is going to award one parent the ability to hold the passports. So that means essentially keep them safe. So if that's something of interest to you, make sure that you are I've never had a big fight over that.
Really? I wondered if anybody ever threw a big stink.
But just make sure if that's something of interest to you. If you want to keep them safe, you want to be the holder of the passports when the other parent's not traveling with them, that needs to be under your section. And then I think it's usually either, it'll say in your decree, it's either 7 or 10 days when the other parent has to give the passport back to you so you can continue being the holder and safekeeper.
And you request. I am the holder on ours, which I could care less either way. I do remember, though, when I went through my divorce 7 years ago, the attorney said, hey, bring me your passports while we're going through the temporary order so nobody does anything. And I was like, what would we do? Like, I'm just not thinking malicious, I guess. But I know there are people that do.
I don't do that because I don't want the responsibility of keeping those documents. But I've heard of that, so I wouldn't set off any red flags if the attorney did that.
Well, I think that's all great information. So this is very helpful for people that are post divorce going through it. And as always, we're here to bring you real life experiences to all your real estate needs.